Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I just want to talk about some of the books that I'm reading, and not in the sense that I'm going to talk about like the books themselves, like the content of the books, but instead that I am a little bit in over my head right now, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to extricate myself from this hole because I currently have just too many reading projects going on, I guess. I'm in the middle of too many books, and I will just go through some of them here. This is really um, all of them, I guess. So I started the other day To Engineer as Human by Henry Petrosky. And this is pretty good. This is about engineering failures, how engineers learn from structural failures and make things better in the future. Um, and then I'm also in the middle of Buckskin Run by Louis L'Amour, which this is a set of short stories, and they are okay. I am working my way through The Lord of the Rings. I'm reading a chapter every day, and so I was in this for the long haul. I think there are 63 chapters, I think. I'm not entirely certain about that number. I so far have read 14, so I just made it through the Council of Elrond, and now they are about to leave Rivendell on the way to throw the ring in the big volcano, right? uh, and this is my third reread of The Lord of the Rings and my fourth reread of The Fellowship of the Ring. And I'm really actually enjoying reading just a chapter a day. It means that I get to spend as long as I want on that chapter. If I want to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes on that chapter, that's perfectly fine because all I have to read is a chapter today and every day. And so if I want to go back and reread sections multiple times over, if I don't understand something and want to kind of work out what is what, and I'm really enjoying that. That's been really nice because there's a lot of depth in this book, and to be able to link everything together and take my time with it is really, really pleasant. For some time, I have been working my way through Sherlock Holmes, the complete illustrated short stories of Sherlock Holmes. I think I've been reading this for a month and a half now. It's really not a huge deal if I make it through this in any set period of time. I'm up to Wisteria Lodge, illustrated by Arthur Twiddle. This is part of his last bow, so September 1908 to September 1917. And so I've made it to the point where Conan Doyle has long since hoped to have rid himself of Sherlock Holmes and to be done with the whole thing, but popular demand forced him back to writing Sherlock Holmes stories, and probably the paycheck, I would imagine, was part of that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. They're still pretty good. There is a bit of a difference between Sherlock before the Reichenbach falls and afterwards. And for one thing, he gets a bit more impatient later on with people. He's very busy. The other day, I decided to. Now, I have this essay project going on where I'm trying to read at least one. I call it the essay project, but really it's one piece of short nonfiction a day. Reading one piece of short nonfiction a day. Essay, article, speech, letters, things of that nature. And I recently decided to add this book to it. This is the Field Guide edition of Stalking the Blue-Eyed Scallop by Yule Gibbons. And my reasoning behind that was that I don't think this is a book that I am ever going to just pick up and read cover to cover, even though it's pretty interesting. And it is in convenient chapters. And I thought, well, why don't I add this to my essay project? And then I can read like Chapter 9, Transcendental Seafood Combinations, or Chapter 5, Razor Clams and Other Marine Cutlery, or 21, The Edible Limpets, right? And I thought that I would just work my way through that. But I have really been enjoying this. And so I have just started reading this every day rather than reading other pieces of nonfiction, and I'm kind of wondering if that's sort of cheating on my essay project because this is one whole book. I think I'm still going to count it though because I don't think that I will actually read this cover to cover or anything like that. I think that I will read parts of it and come back to it. Although I did read his book, Stalking the Wild Asparagus, from cover to cover, and that was actually really interesting. I learned from that that you can make pancakes from pollen gathered from cattails, and I didn't know that. And here is the Encyclopedia of Urban Legend by John Harold Broomvand. And I've had this book since I was probably 11 years old. It's been a long, long time since I've read it cover to cover. And I picked this up about a week ago, I guess. And I am up to G, the G's. So it's all in alphabetical order. And I don't think I should show you the one that I'm on today. Because some of these are pretty gross. And that is part of the whole urban legend thing, is that, you know, some of it involves pretty gross stuff or pretty outrageous things, violence and that sort of thing. But I love urban legends. I always have since I was very young. Urban legends, myths, things of that nature, cryptids, whatever. I've really enjoyed all of that since I was a kid. And I just wanted to reread this book, and I just picked it up. I didn't really intend to. I talked about this a while back in a tag video I did, and I put this on the table beside my bed, and I kept meaning to get to it. I didn't get to it, and then I just picked it up the other day and started reading. It's a really easy read, actually, because they're just like encyclopedia entries, and they are not very large. They're not difficult to read or anything like that, but it is quite a long book. It's 490 pages long, and so this has been taking up quite a bit of my reading time lately. And so on top of that, it is currently June on the Range, and more than anything else, I have been reading Westerns, and I have finished 2 Westerns since my last video on Westerns, which was about, oh goodness, I forgot. Oh, Tucker by Louis L'Amour. And I have spent most of my time reading those, and so between, say, The Lord of the Rings and my essay project and the Westerns that I've been reading, I don't have so much time for these other books. And this hasn't happened to me in a long, long time. I usually keep 2 books going, a nonfiction and a fiction, and then sometimes I might read short stories. And then, you know, earlier this year I added to it the essay project. And now I have added The Lord of the Rings and all these other books. And so I'm just kind of, I'm sort of wondering what I'm going to do to dig myself out of this hole. Whether I'm going to read, say, am I going to read all of Buckskin Run and just finish it? I think that would probably be a good idea. And then it would probably be a good idea to go ahead and finish, say, the Encyclopedia of Urban Legends, because I think that I can finish this pretty fast, relatively fast, and then maybe, I don't know, try to read a short story of Sherlock Holmes every day. And this is quite a lot of reading. I understand that. It doesn't take too long to get through a Sherlock Holmes story, maybe 30 minutes. I have, let me see, is it going to show me how many I have left? I have 19 of these stories left. As for Stalking the Blue-Eyed Scallop, I don't really have any, you know, there's nothing forcing me to finish this. This is part of my essay project, but like I said, the essay project, Lord of the Rings, all these other books have sort of compounded into this. I don't feel like drastically overwhelmed or anything like that, but I do feel like I'm making very little progress right now towards finishing these books. So if we leave out The Blue-Eyed Scallop, and The Lord of the Rings. And I don't really understand what the point of this video is. I have to be completely honest with you, but I think maybe it is to just illustrate how everything is going fine for the longest period of time. For several years, I've been reading just, a fiction book and a nonfiction book and finishing them rather rapidly. And then all of a sudden here, I find myself backed up with a stack of books, right? And this just doesn't happen to me very often. So I think I just wanted to turn on the camera and talk about it for a minute and kind of work it out in my head what I'm going to do here. I think that I may have to put To Engineer is Human aside for a little while and finish Buckskin Run, and then perhaps concentrate on the Sherlock Holmes stories and the urban legends, and just knock out the urban legends, and then maybe continue with Sherlock Holmes until that is done, and sort of put June on the Range to the side for a week or so, and maybe read some of the shorter selections out of this, and maybe even put this aside and read just 1 or 2 page nonfiction essays, article speeches, whatever. I wish I had named that something else. I wish there was a catch-all for that. Short nonfiction is fine, but it doesn't really roll off the tongue, does it? And with The Lord of the Rings, I really don't have to read a chapter of The Lord of the Rings every single day. But I'm just enjoying it so much. Like I have debated with myself over whether or not to just run with it, to just read this and nothing else until I'm done with this. But I'm really, really enjoying taking it slow. It's quite large. Taking it slow and just having a chapter every day. I really, really like that. So I guess this video is just me sort of working this out in my head, and also thinking about you and wondering how you would handle something like this. Does this happen to you? This used to happen to me a lot when I was much younger. I used to read a lot of books at once when I was much younger, but I've really quit doing that over the past decade or so. And so this is just something I haven't dealt with in a long time. Yeah, and I may not have a whole lot of books as far as non-Westerns to talk about for a while, because I've only finished one book that was not a Western in the last couple of weeks, and that was Area 7, and hopefully I will be making a video about that soon, and I will work this out. Really, it's just me wanting to talk, have a conversation with you. That's all it was. I just felt like turning on the camera and having a conversation. And I just made a book haul video, actually. And I have the receiver in my phone from a microphone. I didn't turn my microphone on. And so with my phone set to external mic, it didn't pick up any audio at all. So it's like a 10-minute video with no audio. So I may have to sit here and remake that. Anyway, I want to thank you very much for joining me for this ramble about what's going on in my reading life. And I hope there is something interesting in this. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. And I'll see you next time.